Lots of fans were catching up with Micah Potter after his busy summer playing for Team USA and playing really all kinds of basketball throughout. So it's time to catch up with him. Micah, fill us in first of all what you got going on and where you're at right now.
So we just got back. My wife and I got back from London yesterday, and so it was a crazy. For me, it was 20 days. We were in Vegas for, I believe it was 5 days or 6 days, and then we were in Abu Dhabi. After that, we went to Abu Dhabi, played two games there. I was there for think it was like 7 days, and then I was in. We went from Abu Dhabi to London for 7 days for two games for the Team USA exhibition. So we just got back from London yesterday, and then right now we're just kind of in the process of getting moved out of Salt Lake. Where I'm a free agent, so we're kind of getting ready to get all of our stuff out of Salt Lake, and then get it back to the Midwest area just until we figure out where we're going next.
Before we dive into all the places you were at, talk about how you ended up being a part of Team USA and really what played out. Obviously, being a part of the Jazz on the G League, all that plays a factor. I actually had a chance to play for Team USA in the Pan America Games when I was in the D League. So now I'm aging myself. So don't smile too much. All right. I'm aging myself. But I kind of know how the process works a little bit. Team USA, the way they approach it, the way they put together the team, the practice teams, all that, is very important as far as what they're trying to do and win a gold here in London. But talk about how the process was for you and how you ended up being a part of it.
Yeah, so to be honest with you, like I never really had any connection with Team USA before this event, or just the select team this summer. So what I know, there's always a lot of factors that go into it that you're not really aware of. But what I
Yes.
do know is, so I was obviously a two-way with Utah the last 2 years, and this previous year, Steve Wojciechowski, former Marquette head coach and Duke basketball player, was the coach of the G League team here in Salt Lake. So I got to know Coach Wojo really well, um, with just being a part of the organization, and he had a lot of ties with USA basketball because he was with Coach K a lot when Coach K was the Olympic and national team coach and all that kind of stuff. So I guess he recommended me for it, because he thought I would fit really well in that situation, and he thought it'd be really cool for me to learn a lot of stuff and have the experience. So I'm super thankful for the opportunity that, or the honor that he had to recommend me for the situation, for the position. My agent also had some factors. He's known the director of the men's national team, Sean Ford, for a long time. So I guess it was just kind of all the stars aligning all at the right time. It was kind of crazy. My agent called me out of nowhere. It was just like, "Hey, so you got offered this, select team position, and you're taking it." He's like, "You don't have an option. You're taking it," because it's like one of those things where it's
Yes.
super cool. Like it's one of those things you can't say no. You know what I mean? Like to be able to go like the World Cup stuff's cool, Pan America stuff's cool. Being able to represent your country playing basketball is super cool. But this is the Olympics, so this is like the biggest international sporting event that there is. Um, and so, and then with that you have the names that come along with the Olympic team, like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, like the best American players in the NBA are all on the same team. So it was one of those things you just couldn't pass up. And so I guess, long story short, it was a combination of Coach Wojo recommending me for it and all of his Team USA ties previously, and then my agent also knew the director pretty well. So
Yeah, Sean's been around forever. Sean was there when I had a chance to play for Team USA as well. So, and he's great. And they put together a great team and they understand the development side of it, which is fun, and how it can impact players like yourself. Hey, you're going to be a part of this. We see the growth, we see what you can do. Now, take me to some of the practices. Because obviously, being on a two-way, playing for you, like you've played against guys, it's not the off factor, but it is an off factor of having all those guys on the court at the same time in the same gym. You're talking about the best of the best all together in one place. So tell me a little bit about kind of some of your experiences there and what was the coolest moment for you?
yeah, so that's a great question. The biggest thing that you notice right away is how small the floor looks in practice. Just because you have so much size, length, and athleticism on the floor, it's just like and the FIBA rules are obviously different than NBA rules. So it's like this floor just looks tiny. Um, it's like offensively, it's like you really have to play a different style of basketball compared to what the NBA is used to because, there's no defensive 3 seconds. So people, guys like Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis can just stand in the paint as long as they want and just take up space. And so it's super hard to create space on your own. You have to create it by moving the ball. And so that was really cool to see how all of these guys are so used to playing a certain way and they kind of have to adjust. And also on top of that, play different roles than what they're used to. Like not everyone's going to get 20 shots a game. They might get 5, but they have to be really efficient in those 5. So that was really cool to see how they all adjusted. Obviously, the level of practice was crazy. So like one of the cooler things was LeBron, right? Obviously, you know, in my opinion, he's the greatest, but arguably one of the greatest players of all time. And him being 39, like just seeing his mental capability of the floor, his IQ, his communication, his effort, his like attention to detail from the get go. Like we could be walking through stuff. His communication, he's the loudest one on the floor. He, would kind of direct people where to go. So that was really, really cool to see just like his level of expertise with everything, especially as far as like IQ and communication. And then obviously he's a great basketball player too. But that was the thing that stood out to me. Um, as far as cool moments,
Are you saying 39's old?
no, not at all. I'm just saying
Oh,
like
I just, I just wanted, I just wanted to check. My guy. I just wanted to
Well,
see where
listen,
you
for an
at.
NBA player, it's pretty old. For like, not in the grand scheme of age, it's not. But for an NBA player, I mean, he's going into year, I think it's 21 or 22 or
Yeah,
something like that. So
yeah,
he's just,
yeah.
it's
We were on the
crazy
McDonald's team together, so exactly.
for
That's
sure,
my city. Yes,
for sure.
absolutely.
Um, but yeah, so that was really cool to see. As far as moments go, there were certain things that kind of stood out in practice, like Anthony Edwards' athleticism, like he's just a freak. Anthony Davis's defensive ability, blocking shots and offensive rebounding, like there's so much like tough shot making ability from Kevin Durant. But as far as like the whole thing, like the coolest moment for me was probably in Vegas during the game when I got to get in because we can kind of get into that a little bit later, but we weren't sure whether we were going to play or not. Like we didn't even know if we were going to dress. So, or like even get a jersey or anything. So when we found out we were dressing for the game, getting our Team USA jersey with our names on it was really, really cool. And then we actually got to get in the game because Canada's pretty good. Like they're like one of the top
They are.
international teams. They got a lot of NBA talent. And so for us to be up so much to the point where we could actually get in, and then I actually hit that shot in the corner. It's one of those things like you work on it so much that it kind of becomes second nature. So for me, it wasn't like crazy in the moment, but then like when you look back, you're like, whoa, like this is like Team USA, like this is the Olympic team that I just scored for, and like I'm playing on the floor with all these guys. Like you look back and you're just like, wow, how am I here right now? You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things. Like in the moment, you're kind of just playing the game, you're getting lost in the game, but then once it's all over and you look back, you're just like, wow. So that was probably the coolest moment.
Yeah, I think it was the coolest moment for Badger fans as well because X, Twitter, whatever we want to call it nowadays, blowing up. I saw numerous
Who
people.
is this white guy?
You saw it just like we saw it. So take me into that moment. All right. You hit the shot, you guys played well. Now all of a sudden you get to the locker room and you look at your phone. Tell me what was going through your mind when you saw all of the notifications that came across.
Yeah, so it was pretty crazy. I mean, first off, you get the stuff from your friends and family who are watching the game. Like, oh, Micah scored, like Micah's going in, all that kind of stuff. Because again, we really had no idea until pretty much right before the game that we were even dressing for the game. So like just all of that kind of stuff was really cool. But then you go on, like you said, on X, and it's just like, who is this white guy? Who's number 16? Like how? And then you'll see like Badger fans, Badger Twitter accounts like kind of going off and be like, oh, it's Micah Potter. Micah Potter just hit a 3 for Team USA. Um, so that was really, really cool and funny at the same time because it's one of those things where it's like, I know I'm not a big name in the NBA or like nationally or internationally. Like, a lot of people probably don't know who I am, but it's one of those things. It's like, okay, like now they know who I am. So and then even on top of that, like even the guys like on the team and the coaching staff, they all knew who I was, but like now it's like, okay, this guy can come in being ice cold and hit a shot because I actually did the exact same thing in Abu Dhabi against Serbia. I came in and hit a shot right away. So it's kind of cool for that all of that to happen and like my name kind of start to get out there. But it was actually really funny because probably 95% of everything that was going on, like all of my notifications were, who in the world is this white guy hitting threes for Team USA? So that was all really funny, but it was all cool at the same time.
What was the coolest text you got?
Oh man, I don't know. Like, I got a text from my dad that was pretty cool because it's one of those things where it's like, he put so much into my career. So that was pretty special. But then I had other guys too from the league, around the league, that texted me or like commented when I posted about it on Instagram, kind of things like that. But I would say ultimately, like the thing that was probably the most special is the text from my dad. Again, it wasn't anything like super mushy or whatever. It's just like, I'm so proud of you, whatever. And then just with how much he's put into my career and the effort that he did when I was growing up, like it's kind of cool to kind of have stuff like that pay off. So
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's awesome. You had a chance to play with Nigel a little bit. Obviously, you guys didn't play at Wisconsin, but you had a chance to play for Team USA. What was the coolest experience you had as two Badgers playing for Team USA and the camaraderie that you guys have? Obviously, you didn't play, like I said, but once a Badger, always a Badger, and it's true with you two as well.
yeah, so I was at Ohio State um, when Nigel's last year was my freshman year. So we actually got to play against each other in the Big Ten, but obviously never on the same team. Um, and just to clarify, Wisconsin, I is way better. Just throwing that out there. Everyone knows I've said this. Wisconsin's my team. I don't claim Ohio State. I'm a Badger through and through. But we had never met each other like officially, besides just like on the court. And so it was actually really cool to meet him and get to know him because he's hilarious. He's such a big personality. I'm sure everyone knows that from like all of the stuff that you see or you saw through the Final Four runs and social media and him talking to people in the media, all that kind of stuff. So he was really cool to meet him and really cool to be around and fun. And it was kind of cool because we were select team members. And so we were with the Olympic team in like every situation, like we were actually a part of the team. Um, but the connections to Wisconsin obviously make things a lot easier, and Ohio because we're both from Ohio too. So we really kind of hit it off right away. Personalities blended really well. We did a lot of stuff together, ate meals together, worked out together post practice a lot because sometimes we didn't get as much reps. So we were always there working out post practice together.
Yeah, you guys
Um,
are in that same role, right? Like you guys, same
mhm.
situation, same. So you end up bonding a whole bunch.
Exactly. So we were essentially like two ways for the Olympic team. So like
Yeah.
obviously you might not get a lot of reps, so you got to make sure you stay in shape and all that kind of stuff. So we were doing a lot of stuff together all the time. But as far as the coolest moment, I would say when we both kind of agreed. It was funny. We were talking about it like pretty much every single game. Like, can you believe that we're here right now? Like on the bench, like I'm sitting next to LeBron James. I'm sitting next to Kevin Durant. It's like one of those things where it's like you expect to be there because of the work you put in and the ability that you have, but also just the idea of being with the Olympic team is crazy. So I would say both of us getting in the games was probably the coolest thing that we did together. And then obviously you have the Badger connection and the Ohio connection. So things that I would say that made things a lot easier for us as far as getting along and hanging out and talking and building that relationship. But as far as the coolest thing, I think just the ability to be on the floor with all of these guys. It was funny too because we were talking about like if we were born in any other country in the world, we'd probably be starting for our national team
Yeah.
because he was like first team all EuroLeague this last year. And he's like all these guys that are starting for their like there was like four guys on Serbia, like four or five on Germany, like that he said he torches in EuroLeague. And these guys are starters, and he's like not he's like a two-way essentially, not even on the official Olympic team. And like, so it's kind of a funny thing where it just shows the talent that we have in America, but also like because of that talent, for us to still be a part of that is really, really cool.
One of the things that I think is interesting is the travels. You talk about Abu Dhabi, London. I played in Dubai, so I've been to Abu Dhabi. How cool was that traveling with Team USA and being to a couple of those countries and just experiencing new things?
It was a once in a lifetime thing for sure. So there was only three of us from the select team that got to travel with the team. It's for their exhibitions. Me and Nigel were two of the three. Um, but then like we were literally a part of the team. So we got all the same gear, we got all the same equipment, we got all, the same travel amenities, all the same kind of hotel rooms. So really it was crazy. So we flew on a private charter. We connected in Iceland so we went from Las Vegas to Iceland to Abu Dhabi. So that was cool, just like to be in Iceland too. But then just to be in the playing with those guys, obviously most of the time you're kind of just sleeping because you're trying to get on the new schedule as far as the time change, so you're not as jet lagged. But just being able to be around those guys pretty much like 24/7. I mean, you're all doing the exact same things all the time, going to eat, riding on the planes. that was crazy. But then something that I had never experienced at this level before was like international play and playing on an international stage. Like the environment's crazy. So like when we went out to the floor for the first time in Abu Dhabi, it was not as big as some NBA arenas, but the environment was nuts. Like the screaming, the fans, the roaring of the crowd. Like you get guys like
Well, I love
LeBron James.
basketball.
It's
Oh yeah.
crazy how much they love basketball. Like Americans love it, but like you always see videos of like international arenas and how crazy they go for it's nuts. Like it literally is unlike anything I've ever been a part of. Um, so like to see the reactions of like them, you know, cheering when LeBron dunks it or Steph Curry hits a three, like it kind of at first when I first went out there, I was like, oh man, like this is like kind of intense. Like I'm gonna have to get used to this. But then you kind of just settle in and it's just kind of business as usual. But it is a very different situation. And then it's cool too because I got to bring my wife. So like she had never been to Abu Dhabi and Dubai. I had been once before. And then for London, like we got in Abu Dhabi and London or Dubai, excuse me, we got to go out and experience things too, like as far as being there. So like in Dubai, they have like the Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest building in the world, the big fountain show out in front, the biggest mall, or I think it's like the second biggest mall in the world. You were there for like 3 hours and we saw like maybe a fifth of it. It's crazy how big the thing is. Um, and just being able to do all those things and experience different parts of the world, not only just for myself, but also with my wife was really, really cool.
When you talk about obviously the experiences of basketball, you get an opportunity that many people don't get a chance to do. How did you bond with those guys? What you have in as far as connections wise, and what did you guys talk about a whole bunch?
Yeah, so that's another great question. I I say I got pretty close with a lot of the guys. Some guys just based off of personalities are a little bit more reserved, which is, you know, people are how they are. But most of the guys are like really open and talk a lot. So it was really cool for and again, I'm going into year 4 in the NBA. So like I've been around these guys. Like I'm considered a peer, so to speak, but it's much different playing on the court versus actually getting to know them and being on the same team. So being able to talk with like guys like Steph, I talked to Steph a lot. Talked about golf, talked about family, vacations, trips, things not outside of basketball. That was really cool. Braun, the same thing. Like he gave me, you know, a custom as like one of his game worn pair of shoes with autograph with a note to me because we're both from Northeast Ohio. So that was really cool. The relationship we built there. Kevin Durant was the same way. Like going through like there's the video of me playing defense against him. And just to clarify, like it was 70% token defense, like scripted defense. So yes, I'm getting torched. It looks like I'm getting torched, but like it's just to make them like give a different look than just a wide open shot. I just want to clarify that. Like it was scripted, it was token defense, like all that kind of anyways. Um, but just be able to learn things from guys like Kevin Durant, who's probably the greatest scorer of all time, like different things he does to create space, you know, using angles, using your body, you know, shot, you know, ball placement when you're trying to avoid getting blocked, things like that was super, super cool. And then also I built up some pretty cool relationships with the coaching staff too. It's like you have Steve Kerr, who's the head coach, and then Tyronn Lue, and then Eric Spoelstra, and then Mark Few from Gonzaga. It was really cool to develop relationships with them as well, and just let them see who I am and kind of pick their brains about certain things, and you know, just kind of experience how they do practice and things that I can pick up for myself. So it was really, really cool being able to be around those guys, get to know them, and like I said, they were all super open. Like I was one of their own teammates, so getting to talk with them about certain things and just life outside of basketball was awesome.
Well, obviously your game's developed since leaving Wisconsin, but the foundation of the basketball player that you are was built at the University of Wisconsin. Talk about what you learned at Wisconsin to help you kind of through this experience that you went through playing for Team USA.
Oh man, there's a lot. Because like you said, like I really developed at Wisconsin that redshirt year and then the 2 years that I played. So there's so much. Um, like physicality, discipline, work ethic. I would say my redshirt year was probably the biggest learning experience that I had just because I had to sit out. And obviously, like I would say you learn the most from playing, but as far as like the discipline aspect of like staying in shape and like working hard, eating right, not getting overweight, because that's very easy when you're not playing.
Yeah.
And so like just the discipline that I learned from like and I always think that well, think to, I like to think that I had a certain level of discipline enough to like stay in shape. But you realize like once you're not playing and you're kind of like you're a part of practice, but you're not one of the main guys because you can't play. Like there's a different level of like extra work that you have to put in. So being a pro, that was probably the biggest thing. Is like once you don't have class anymore, like your basketball is all you have, and so to be able to put the work in the summers when you have your off season because it's literally I love it because it's like you literally have nothing but basketball. Like in the summer, it's like you can go work out and then you can do whatever you want after. There's no class, there's no nothing. And so to be able to have the discipline to like eat right, stay in shape, and like really developing your game every off season is probably the biggest thing that I learned that translates. Um, there's so many other things that translate, but as far as like the biggest thing is probably the discipline and work ethic that I learned that redshirt year, because that you have to get better every single year because you have new draft picks coming in every year that are super talented, and it's the best league in the world. You have guys coming in from all over the world that are coming in trying to take your spot. So you have to get better every single year. So the development and the discipline that learned in developing at Wisconsin was probably the biggest thing I could take away.
Talk about briefly and explain when you get a group together in this Badger group that they've got, there's some veteran guys, there's some new players that they have in coming in. What's the message you have for this group of Badgers that will be playing this year?
It's not the easiest thing because even like I struggled with it and so many other everyone struggles with it to some point, to some extent, is you have to come together and have one common goal. And like you can have personal goals, but especially at the college level, it's I mean it's at every level, as I'm sure you understand. You play professionally and like you get it. Um, but you have to sacrifice something to reach a common goal because winning is the ultimate prize, and winning is what helps you get better and also helps you like project your name and increase your name for the next level. Like winning is everything. So one of the biggest things, like my junior year when everything got canceled because of COVID, um, he or we all like had to sacrifice something, and we found this rhythm where we won the final 8 games, we won the Big Ten, and then it stinks because everything got canceled, so we didn't get to see how everything could have come to fruition in the end. But like, there's a lot of guys that sacrificed a lot to help win the Big Ten that year, and like the next year after that, COVID happened. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but there's also like factors of like personal desire of like wanting to do more and like get more shots and things like that that I think also played a little bit of role. And I was part of the problem too. Um, but it's like one of those. It wasn't again. COVID's the biggest factor, but it's not as fun when you're not winning. If you're winning games, everything else becomes easy, and everyone looks good. And so the biggest thing that I would say is like learn to sacrifice for the common goal of winning, because even though it might, stink in the beginning and in a moment, like over time you'll start to realize like if you can learn to sacrifice and you start winning, and then everyone gets theirs, like everyone eats when you're winning. That's what makes things the most fun. That's what being able to cheer your teammates on when they do well, and then they'll cheer you on when you do well. Like that's the best part of being in college sports is just that camaraderie that you get.
I get asked that question a lot. What makes Wisconsin different than other programs? I cover for Big Ten Network, for Fox. You see it, and I use that. That's the same word I use: a sacrifice. I said everybody in that locker room knows to sacrifice for each other. You might, 2 or 3 points less than what you could score, 4 or 5 points left than what you could score, but you're sacrificing for the guy next to you. And that's what Wisconsin basketball is built on. And that's why it's had so much success, because guys understand it. It's passed down from Greg and the coaching staff to the seniors, to the younger players, and everybody understands it. I think it's a unique way of putting it. Last one we've got for you, Michael. What's next for you? You've had a great summer. You've been busy. You've been all over the world. You've played with the best players in the world. But what's next for you this upcoming season?
Yeah, it's one of the beauties of this job is just the unknown. So I really have no idea. All I know, like right now, is like what I can control is what I can control, and that's staying in shape, getting better in some way of my game, eating right, taking care of my wife because she's a big part of my life now. Um, so like it's really I don't know. We've got a lot of interest from a lot of different teams. It's just about finding the best fit and certain situations are better than others. So just making sure that I'm not worried about having a job next year, but it's just kind of part of free agency is like you just have to be patient and wait and stay in shape. That's kind of how it all works. So there's a lot of really good things about this job, and I wouldn't even consider this to be a bad thing. It's just kind of part of it, but the unknown's a big thing. So right now, like I said at the beginning, like we're getting ready to move out of Salt Lake. We're going to drop our stuff off in Milwaukee and then head over to Ohio. We have to see my family. Elle will go back to Milwaukee, where she's from, to be with her family. Then I'll go train, and I'll be training until we find out, where the next spot is, and wherever that is, we'll be excited for it and look to make the most of it.
Well, Micah, thanks so much for your time. Badger fans, there you have it, catching up with Micah Potter as throughout his adventures this summer with Team USA and everything else in between. Thanks so much, Micah.
Yep, appreciate you guys.